Okay, we are recording. Hello, everybody. Watching in the future. Thank you very much for checking out this this Zoom recording of our Assistive Technology Group Seminar, monthly group seminar. My name is Sam Seavey. I'm the Assistive Technology Coordinator here at the Bluegrass Council of the Blind. I got to remember to look up at the camera. So we do a monthly group seminar and we record it and then put it out on different social media platforms. But today we are talking about the history of the white cane. Since this is July and we celebrate our independence here in the US, July 4th, I thought it'd be a great time to talk about the history of the white cane because the cane was once referred to as a staff of independence. And it's truly what it is. It's brought independence to a lot of people. And so, but there's a little bit of mystery behind it. Where did it come from? Who invented it? Why is it white? Why does it have that red section on it? So that's what we're going to talk about today. I am joined by, we've got someone here in the office. So if you see me talking off camera, that's who I'm talking to. And I've got my notes that I'm going to be following. I should mention that I did a video about this on my YouTube channel. I have a YouTube channel called The Blind Life, and I did a video about the history of the white cane, where I talk a lot about this. I show images of the things I talk about. So if you find this interesting, I'd recommend checking that out. Okay, so a little bit of history. Kimberly, you don't use a cane. Do you use a cane?
No, I don't.
Okay. I use my cane mainly for identification. I don't use it necessarily for mobility very much. So mostly identification. And that's one of the things we're going to talk about, that the cane, it serves two functions. It's mobility and identification. And in a lot of ways, the identification kind of is more important than the mobility for a lot of us working with the cane. I'm gonna see if I can adjust my camera a little bit better. Let's do this. And then that, okay. So as far as the history of using a cane for mobility, that goes all the way back to biblical times, when shepherds were out in the fields and they had their shepherd's hook staff that they would use to bump the sheep and encourage them to move along. Well, people with vision impairment adopted that hooked shepherd's staff and started using that as a walking cane or a walking stick. And so then they would also, of course, use just random sticks that they found lying around. But most records that were surviving from that time showed people using shepherd's hooks. And it wasn't until probably the 20th century before the cane became a symbol for blindness, which is its main function right now. So where did it come from, though? Who invented it? The person's name is actually James Boggs, or Biggs, excuse me, James Biggs, B-I-G-G-S. And he's from Bristol, England. He is credited as being the first person to create the white cane and use it as a mobility tool for blindness. This was 1921. James Biggs lost his sight due to an accident, and he was having trouble navigating his neighborhood with the increased traffic from motor vehicles. There were a lot more cars becoming normal back then, and so he was having a difficult time. So he decided that if he took his black walking cane and painted it white, it would make it more visible to the cars and the oncoming traffic. And so that's what he did. So that's kind of the unofficial history, who invented it. It's I don't know if it's actually proven, but that's what the records show. And then it was around the same time in 1931, about a decade later, that this lady, Gilly D. Hardmont, Gilly D. Hardmont in France, living in France, started a white cane movement in France and trying to promote the white cane as a symbol for blindness in France. And around the same time, in the early 30s, the BBC in England, Britain, they also, on their radio show, they also started to promote the white cane as a symbol for blindness. Now, here in the US, we credit the Lions Club International for adopting the white cane as a symbol for blindness and a mobility tool for blindness. And that was also in the early 30s. A lot of stuff happened in the early 30s, early 20s. But the Lions Club here in the US, Lions Club International, is the first organization that really adopted that and started to promote the white cane as a symbol for blindness. And then they did that through different campaigns and things like that. And then in the 60s, the early 60s, the orientation and mobility instructors, well, that was prior to orientation and mobility, the voc rehab, excuse me, voc rehab counselors and things like that started to try to pressure legislation that to adopt a white cane, national white cane holiday, or excuse me, no, I'm sorry, to promote ordinance and get legislation to help support white cane safety and blind pedestrians using the white cane. And let's see. Now, prior to that, though, shortly after World War II, well, prior to World War II, there was no standardized method of using the white cane. People just used it however they needed it. But some people got together and decided that they should really have a standardized method of using the white cane. And this was spearheaded by a gentleman named Hoover. And what's his whole name? Richard Hoover. And he was a former military man, actually. And so he created the Hoover method of cane travel. And that is still taught today. It's basically the 2-point touch. If you tap, tap, tap side to side as you're walking, that was the Hoover method. And he invented it shortly after World War II. And being a military man, that method, if you think about it, it's very structured, very in time, like marching, tap, 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 as you walk along. And so that was part of his military background, is where he kind of went with that, as far as it's very marching like. So also in the 30s, Illinois, Peoria, Illinois, was the first U.S. City to pass a white cane safety ordinance, indicating that blind and visually impaired pedestrians using a white cane had the right of way to motorists and things like that. So they were the first ones. Very quickly, over the next decade or two, a lot more states and cities also passed ordinances granting safety, legal safety to blind pedestrians using the white cane. And then in the 60s, that's when, let's see, October 15th, white cane. Yeah. So in the 1960s, the early 60s, is when the voc rehab counselors and other people working in the community really pressed, or were pushing legislation to adopt October 15th as the National White Cane Safety Day, as an official national holiday. And the president, Lyndon B. Johnson, was the one who finally signed that into law, proclaiming that, yes, October 15th of every year would be White Cane Day, to which we still celebrate today. So that is the history of the white cane. Quick, I'm sure there was a lot more to it, but a quick breakdown of the history of where it all came from. As far as the future of the white cane, right now, currently, we have smart canes and canes that connect to our smartphones and apps and will vibrate when we get too close to something. So the cane is ever changing. It could be argued that it doesn't need to change. It works fine the way it is, but we'll see. We'll see what the future holds for the white cane. Now, we keep calling it the white cane, but exactly what does the white color signify? What does the red stripe signify? Maybe you've seen a purple cane or a blue cane. What's up with those? So the colors, a lot of people don't realize, but the colors actually signify things. And now I should say that this doesn't necessarily mean that you're using the wrong cane. So the colors sometimes signify different types of vision impairments. So if you are using a cane that signifies a vision impairment that you don't have, that's okay. It doesn't mean you're using the wrong cane. This is just kind of guidelines that it's not hard and fast rules anymore. So the solid white cane, if you've seen a cane that is solid white, doesn't have any kind of colored markings on it, that generally refers to total blindness or profound blindness. Those white canes are also much more popular in European countries. Here in the US, I think the NFB uses white canes, solid white canes, but other than that, we don't tend to see those too often. Most of the canes we see have that red stripe or that red section. Now, what does that mean? If you have a cane with that solid white with one red section, that generally indicates low vision or partial sight. Once again, it doesn't have to. A totally blind person can use a cane with a red stripe. That's fine. But in general, if you're going by the books, that's what it means. If you have a cane that has alternating red and white sections or red and white stripes, that usually represents deaf blindness. So someone that is both deaf and blind. And once again, also there's some canes that have multiple colors that also in some countries represents deaf blindness. Not so much here in the US, but then there are canes that are solid other colors like blue and red and purple. Those don't necessarily signify anything. It's just a way to customize your cane, to personalize your cane. Some cane manufacturers will offer the ability to buy canes in multiple colors or different colors. You can even customize the color of the cane shaft versus the cane handle, and even the string, the elastic string inside. You can choose a different color for that. But that's strictly just a way to personalize your cane. Now, there is some debate whether that is, if you should do that, because as I mentioned, the cane main function is a symbol for blindness, and the symbol is the white cane or the white cane with the red stripe. So if you have a cane with multiple colors, it's a blue cane, it may not serve the same purpose as an identifier. So that's just something to keep in mind. Now, one benefit to the colorful canes is I've read that some orientation and mobility specialists will give those bright colored canes to little kids when they're learning how to use a cane, to encourage them to learn how to use their cane or to use their cane because it's bright and colorful and fun. So that's a cool, I could see that being very helpful. Let's see. Now there's different types of canes we can talk about as well. There are canes that, sorry, adjusting here. There's mobility canes, and then there's identification canes. And the mobility canes tend to be thicker, stronger, more robust, made of harder materials because they're used for mobility. You're using them, walking around, banging into things, you know, tapping them back and forth or sliding them back and forth. So they need to be able to hold up to that abuse. But identification canes don't. So they tend to be skinnier, thinner, and in some countries like Europe, they can be really, really short. You can have an ID cane that's only like 2 feet long, and it doesn't even touch the ground. You just hold it and walk around with it because it's just used for identification. It's really interesting. So we don't see that too much here in the States, but we do have the thin, skinny canes that they wouldn't last very long if you were using them for mobility because they just can't handle that kind of use. But then as far as cane material, it's whatever person's preference. They have aluminum, they have fiberglass, carbon fiber, all of that. That's just whatever you would like to use, you know. And then cane tips. And we did a whole video about cane tips, talking about that. You can check that in the, I believe it's in the Bluegrass Council of the Blind's YouTube page. So that is the history of the cane. Kimberly, do you have any questions or?
I can't think of any.
Okay. Well, that is it for this video, guys. If you have any questions or you would like to inquire about joining us for one of these AT group seminars, please feel free to give us a call. You can call the office 859-259-1834, and we will get you set up with it. We do them every single month. Or you can come back to our YouTube page and watch these videos. So thank you very much, guys. As always, we will see you next time. I'm going to stop the recording.